Hello, I'm Refashionista Sherry, and as you can kind of tell from the lack of lovely, bright, natural light today, the weather has snapped, or what is it? Cold snapped. And yeah, we are definitely into winter here now, which is why I went through my sweaters this past weekend and, was just sorting through them like you do. And I'm curious to know if this happens to you. So I'm sorting through my sweaters, and this particular sweater, this rather bulky, huge pom-pom covered sweater was my go-to sweater last year. I wore it like all the time when it was cold because it big, bulky, comfy, can throw it over anything. But this year I'm just like, ew, what? No. Does that happen to you? Do you like look at your clothes from not even a long time ago and go, what, why? This is not at all, but I guess maybe it's because our styles evolve all the time. I don't know. Anyway, I was going through my sweaters. This is getting longer and longer. And found this one that I'm not feeling anymore. And then I found this one, which I wore like all the time the year before. The year before I got this one, it was this one. And I was thinking to myself, look at the colors here. Look at that. They're like nearly identical and everything coordinates so well together. And I had such success with my tutorial from last week, the DIY puff sleeves that I was so afraid to try, and then tried it, and oh my God, it is fantastic. I'll link it down below so you can go do your own without a pattern at all. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I've been kind of afraid to try to make a patchwork dress out of knits, and that's what we're gonna do today. I'm facing all the fears this month, and we are going to make a funky, oversized, maybe cozy patchwork dress for this super cold weather that is now here, and let's get making. To create your super cozy oversized sweater dress, you need, of course, 2 oversized sweaters and your sewing gear. So because this sweater has these fluffy, puffy pom-poms all over it, the first thing I'm going to do is remove these. So there was actually 28 pom-poms on that sweater, so that's great. And I'm just wondering, does anybody else have a pom-pom jar? I always save stuff like this because, it comes in handy, right? Then you don't have to buy it. It comes in handy for future projects. And these are so squishy and soft. For sure I'm going to use them for something else. But this is just I think it was a pickle jar, and I cleaned it out and then took an empty thread spool, glued it on top, and painted the top pink. And yeah, I have a lovely, adorable storage jar for my little tiny studio. And yeah, these are going to go in there, and then let's move on to the next step. So I just noticed something that's going to make my life a heck of a lot easier, and that is the fact that my sweaters are pretty much the exact same width here. And yeah, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is remove the sleeves from each sweater and the collars. This one, of course, is a turtleneck. This one is just a regular, plain old sweater neck. And yeah, then we're going to come back and see how else we're going to transform them. So when I'm chopping off the sleeves and the necklines, I'm actually going to leave this thick seam behind on the body of the sweater just to prevent any fraying, because I have an idea of what I'm going to do with the sleeves, and it does not require this thick seam here. So let's leave that on the body of the sweater, so, to make life a little bit easier and make this project go hopefully quicker. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 sleeves removed and the turtleneck. Now I decided not to remove the neckline from this sweater because I have an idea, and yeah, we'll wait to see at the end to see if it's gonna work or not. I may end up removing it, but for now it's gonna stay put. So I now have both of the sweaters inside out, and I have placed one on top of the other. And yeah, everything is lined up pretty well here. I have the side seams there, up at the top, the shoulder seams, and of course one is longer than the other, so the bottom hem doesn't really matter. And I'm just actually going to cut them now on the diagonal, and I'm going to chop through both layers of both sweaters. So fingers crossed this is going to be successful. So I have laid these out with each half of one sweater corresponding with the other half of the other sweater, and I'm just going to go stitch both of these together now, and then I guess I'll have in essence two kind of diagonal patchwork sweater vests, and then we're going to go from there. Okay, I'm a bit embarrassed to admit this, but it took me way too long to figure out how to put these two together so they can be stitched together nicely. So just in case anyone else has a brain like mine, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this here. Okay, so I have both of them right side out, and then I'm simply going to flip this one kind of over the top of the other sweater here, making sure that I have the shoulder seams lined up, and now of course the right sides will be facing. So I have my shoulder seams lined up, I have these raw chopped edges lined up, and now it's just a matter of going and simply stitching both pieces together. But like I said, that took me way too long to figure out. Okay, so far so good. This is looking how I want it to look. All right, so I think I'm going to use this one for the top, clearly, because that has that finished collar that I left, and this one is going to be the bottom of the dress. So now we got to figure out how to cobble all of this together. It's going to work. What's in my head is actually happening. Yay. Okay. So I don't want this to be like super long, like past my knees. So I think what I'm going to do now is kind of fold the top a little bit here, just below the collar, and yeah, hold it up to where I kind of want it to be. I mean, you can kind of see my lines here aren't super matching up, but I don't care. I don't care. It's working out, and that's what's important. It's just going to be a little more patchworky than I thought, but that's okay. Yeah, I think if I go about there, let's chuck in another centimeter for seam allowance and pop a little pin there. Yeah, that's going to work. That is going to work. So now I'm just going to cut straight across at my mark to create my ideal length for the top of my dress. So I now have the bottom part of my dress inside out and laying flat. And clearly I do not need sleeves and armholes on the bottom of my dress, nor do I need a neckline or a head hole. So the very first thing that I need to do is, of course, close up these armholes. And to do that, I'm just going to stitch as close as possible from the shoulder seam straight down, kind of trying to make it as straight as and even as I can. And then I'm just going to chop off that little bit of excess, and I'm going to do that on both sides. So now that I have my new side seams on the bottom of my dress, I can simply go chop off the shoulder seams and of course the neckline area. So because I took in the sides of the bottom, I now, of course, have to also take in the sides of the top, because you can see here there is more than a couple of centimeters difference, and I want the top and the bottom to match up. I want it to be quite straight. I don't want to have to do any gathering at the top. So all I'm going to do is pop a pin in the top part here, and then just do a really simple straight stitch from the pin up to the opening of the armhole here. So at this point, I highly recommend popping everything on inside out and just making sure that it's all kind of coming together how you want it to. And mine really is. This is gonna work. So now let's go stitch the top to the bottom, then we can get started on the sleeves and what's gonna happen with the collar. So I have my top piece, I have my bottom piece, and they are both right side out. Now I am simply going to flip my skirt bottom piece over top of my top piece. So now my skirt piece is inside out, but as I always say, when they are stitched together, the right sides will be facing. And yeah, now it's a matter of lining up the side seams on both sides and really trying not to stretch as I stitch. If you have any tips and tricks for sewing with knits without using any fancy machinery, just a plain old sewing machine, please leave them down below because we're always up for learning here on this channel. So I popped a pin on each lined up side seam area, and it all seems to be fitting together really, really well. So I'm really glad that I took in the top as much as I did. And yeah, now I'm just gonna go stitch these two together. Okay, the top and bottom are stitched together. I chopped off any excess fabric here. Now let's flip right side out and okay, that is actually looking pretty cool, I think. So let's get it done. Let's do the sleeves now. Okay, so because these sleeves, which, you know, weren't from the same sweater, are so similar in color, I think, because I want this to be patchworky, these two sleeves that were from this sweater, I'm just going to set them aside and use them in a future project because then I'll have two sleeves that are actually identical, so that's good. And because these ones are different, I am going to put the darker one on the light side and the light one on the darker side. But I'm going to do this in a little bit of a creative way, and instead of putting them right back on the same way they were before with the shoulder seams and everything lined up, I'm going to flip them over. And so the cuff is now going to become the top part of the sleeve, and then where it attached to the shoulders will then become the bottom. And I'm just going to do like a lettuce hem and create a bell sleeve. And we all know how much I love bell sleeves here. So, okay, so let's do that. So I thought before I attached my sleeves, I would finish off the bottom lettuce edge bell here. And I'll just show you how I do that. I take my... what is this called? I always called it a foldy foot, but I don't think it's called that. It is called, a rolled hem foot. That's what it's called. So take your rolled hem foot and simply set your machine to a tight, wide zigzag and use it to stitch all around the raw edge of your garment. And because this is knit, it is a little bit picky, and you do tend to have to kind of hold it in place and stretch it a little bit more than if you were just using your rolled hem foot on a nice light cotton or something like that. But it does work, and as you can see, it looks pretty darn cool. Now, if you do not have a rolled hem foot, even though my machine is secondhand, I still had all the attachments that came with it, so that was great. You still can achieve this kind of a lettuce hem look using just your plain old straight stitch foot here. I don't know what this is called either. And to do that, again, you simply fold your knit over, and with that tight wide zigzag and stretching as you stitch, just, you know, stitch the raw edge and it curls up just like it did with the rolled hem foot. Now, of course, these look a little bit different. This one came out quite a bit wider because I was super stretching this one. But once everything is all washed and dried, it will actually, you know, everything will constrict and it'll all match up perfectly. So now let's attach the sleeves. So my dress is now so close to being done, I can taste it. All right. Okay, so I have my light colored sleeve that is going on the darker side, and it is right side out. And now I am just going to pop it into the inside out dress. And again, right sides will then be facing. And I have to find, there it is, have to find my underarm sleeve seam here, and I'm just going to line that up with the side seam and underarm seam of the armhole. And of course I will have to stretch as I stitch because these are slightly different lengths, widths, what have you. And yeah, now I'm just going to go stitch those together and then repeat on the other sleeve and armhole. Okay, so my sleeves are now on and I think everything is pretty much done. I did go ahead and reattach the turtleneck as well. So it just gives that, you know, little bit extra warmth plus some extra patchwork here at the top as well. So now let's go try it on and style it up. Yet another triumph. Again, I don't know why I'm always so scared to try things and I just put it off and put it off and put it off. But again, this one, another one. I am just shocked that I was able to make this. And as far as all of the bunching that was there after I had stitched it all together, all I did was, you know, washed it with my next load of laundry and everything, like I said, tightened up. And yeah, you see, there's no bunching, there's no nothing. It is absolutely fantastic. It is so cozy. And it's, I mean, no one else has this, right? That is one of the best parts of refashioning. Everything you create is one of a kind. And it is the best feeling when you're out and about and people are like, oh, where did you buy that? That is so cool. And you say, thanks, I made it. It is fantastic. And if you want to really, really dive deep and transform your entire wardrobe, plus learn how to make money from the items you don't want and the items that you create, I highly recommend taking my Refashioning 101 e-course. Link is down below. I mean, it's got everything you need, literally from start to finish. Like, we're starting with just going through your closet and then all of my thrifting tips and tricks. There's how to clean stuff, laundry tips, you know, I mean, it's all in there. And then we're going to move on to hand sewing, embroidery, machine sewing. I mean, plus, of course, there's literally hundreds of tutorials that have never been seen before in that course. And you also get a complimentary copy of my huge Refashioning 101 ebook when you take the course. And not only that, every single lesson, of course, is super in-depth and comes with its own little downloadable textbook. So for every lesson, you have bonus tutorials and bonus tips and tricks in the little textbook that goes with each lesson. So seriously, if you haven't already, click that link, go check it out, enroll in the course, and please, you know, if you make something, share it with me. Join my Gone Thrifting group and share those things that you make. And I want to see how my tutorials inspire your makes. And yeah, I think I'm going to do some more stuff with knits now that I'm brave once again. And, you know, not a problem. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. Oh, so cozy, oh, so warm.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.